Welcome to this explainer covering the Whitehall Training Clinical Operations course. If you're a clinical trial manager, a study manager, a CTA, a lead CRA, or really anyone joining a ClinOps function, well, this is specifically for you. We're going to see exactly how clinical operations acts as the absolute engine that delivers compliant, on-time, and on-budget clinical trials.
You see, GCP isn't just some abstract theory sitting on a shelf. It's the daily operational language of your trials. Today, we'll be looking at how to navigate those daily realities under the strict expectations of the FDA, the EU CTR, and the latest ICH GCP E6R3 guidelines.
Across the 15 modules of this course, running from introduction right through to scenarios and assessment, we'll break down the end-to-end protocol lifecycle. We'll look at GCP compliance, startup and activation, patient recruitment, the safety pipeline, risk management, and finally, maintaining an always-ready inspection posture. So let's dive straight in.
Starting with Phase 1, the GCP Compliance Foundation.
Now, the upcoming ICH GCP E6R3 standard absolutely mandates a risk-based approach. We pair this right alongside Alcoa, you know the drill, ensuring every single action is attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. It's all about making sure every move is perfectly documented for future reconstruction.
And of course, you absolutely must master your regional timelines. We're talking about the rapid 30-day FDA IND clock in the US, the highly comprehensive 106-day EU CTIS process, and post-Brexit, the approximately 30-day MHRA review right here in the UK.
Right, moving on to Phase 2, Startup and Activation Gates. This is where we learn to brilliantly compress time. By running your regulatory and ethics submissions in parallel rather than sequentially, and by leveraging master agreements, you can literally shrink what used to be months of painful contract cycles into just 1 or 2 weeks. It's a massive operational advantage.
You'll see how to lead cross-functional delivery through 6 non-negotiable activation gates. And the key takeaway here? That critical green light signature from the CTM. No matter the pressure, it can never, ever be skipped or delegated before first patient in.
Which brings us nicely to Phase 3, patient recruitment and retention.
To truly succeed here, we have to completely abandon that old checkbox feasibility mindset. Instead, you want to use tiered activation and scoring to assess operational fit. You have to be willing to ruthlessly reject those bottom-performing sites up front. It might feel tough at the time, but it saves months of pain later on.
But look, when recruitment inevitably slips, and it always does, a single fix rarely works. You need to orchestrate a multi-pronged recovery strategy. We're talking adding sites, safely relaxing eligibility protocols, boosting your marketing, and integrating decentralized digital platforms, all happening simultaneously. Let's shift gears into Phase 4, the safety pipeline and IP oversight.
Here, coordinating critical data management is absolutely paramount. We have to clearly distinguish any standard adverse event from a serious adverse event, like a hospitalization for febrile neutropenia, for example. That serious tag triggers an urgent, unstoppable reporting cascade.
And then you have the SUSAR, a suspected, unexpected, serious adverse reaction. This is your absolute highest alert level. It's an unexpected, drug-related event that triggers the most urgent regulatory reporting globally, no exceptions.
Your safety and pharmacovigilance pipeline has to work flawlessly, 24/7. From that initial 24-hour site reporting window to a 4-hour sponsor evaluation, right through to the 7-day regulator deadline. This operational rule literally never takes a day off, not even on weekends.
When it comes to investigational product oversight, data must drive your decisions. Imagine cold chain IP is held up at customs over a weekend. You quarantine it, check the IMPD stability data, let the sponsor CMC decide, and document the rationale. That rigorous process routinely rescues tens of thousands of pounds of biological product from unnecessary destruction.
Moving on to Phase 5, risk-based quality management.
As highlighted brilliantly in Module 13, which is all about operational excellence, risk-based quality management allocates resources using a very simple formula. Likelihood times impact equals your priority score, from 1 to 9. This ensures your investment is heavily focused purely on those top-tier, high-priority threats. And when you look at your dashboards, you want to contrast KPIs, which just show you past performance, against KRIs, your key risk indicators. Think of KRIs as your early warning system. They flag emerging risks,
like a sudden 40% spike in deviation rates, long before they escalate into an audit finding. Finally, Phase 6, always ready inspection posture. When preparing for audits and inspections, you absolutely must focus on the top global findings. Consistently, the #1 issue is an ICF version mismatch, subjects consenting on outdated forms. That is exactly why a weekly reconciliation matrix is completely vital.
So ask yourself, is your team always ready, or are they relying on pre-inspection cramming? Consider an operations team that practiced daily, rigorous filing discipline for 4 years. When an unannounced EMA inspector arrived, they confidently produced 18 complex requested documents in under 12 minutes. That is the gold standard.
So, are you treating GCP as just some annual theory to cram for, or is it the daily operational language of your trials? Remember, cramming creates patches that fail scrutiny, but daily discipline creates patterns that pass inspections effortlessly. I invite you to start the 15 modules of the Whitehall Training Clinical Operations course today and truly take control of your trials.